Let's go to our guest line. If you happen to be watching us on QSportsTalk.com, you'll see our next guest live and in person. Pleased to be joined by the defensive coordinator of the SU men's lacrosse team, John Odierna. Coach, thanks for coming on. How are you today? Big one tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I appreciate you playing Lincoln Park. You're throwing it back to my teenage years, so I appreciate that.
There you go.
All right, he would have voted for Lincoln Park.
All right, now I'm glad that we have Lincoln Park as our artist of the day. All right, Coach. Quite a challenge. Paulie and I were talking about the schedule that you guys play. I mean, the ACC is tough enough. You go out of conference, you play everybody, you don't dodge anyone. Another tough one tonight with Duke. What stands out to you about these Blue Devils from an offensive perspective as you get to go up against them defensively tonight?
Yeah, they're an excellent team. They come at you in a lot of different ways. I've said to our guys, it's not so much what they do, it's who they have that makes them who they are. And I think for us, we're battle tested. Like you said, Coach Gate took on all comers with the schedule this year. But ultimately, we know the ACC is obviously the top dogs. And this is one where, we want to put our best foot forward in our first opportunity to play somebody in the conference. And a team that last year, I think they scored 14 and 18 against us. So I know we'll have our hands full. But this is why we're here. These are the fun matchups.
Defensively, this team, the Syracuse team, seems to be much improved from a year ago, and I know that's certainly credit to you and to the players. What do you like about this particular group, and what has allowed you guys to have so much success here early on in the season?
Yeah, it's been really fun to watch. I think we're an interesting group. We're pretty young. We're starting 2 first-year starters at close defense. So, 2 guys that'll have their hands full in their matchups tonight, guarding a fifth-year senior and a senior who's arguably the best player in lacrosse. So I think what's been exciting about our group is watching our growth from week to week. Early on, the style that I like to coach is very player-oriented, player-driven. And with that comes some growing pains as the guys learn how to make their own decisions and communicate through what they're seeing. And for the first time all year, we felt like the Delaware game over the weekend, they're a really quality opponent that took a team like Duke to the brink of the NCAA tournament last year, 12-11 final where Duke escaped. We felt like that was our first real marquee performance, holding those guys to 6 with 1 in the second half. So I think it's been so much fun to work with guys like Riley Figueres, Billy Dwan, who I think are going to be the faces of college lacrosse on the defensive end over the next 3-4 years. And then we have some of the older guys, Caden Cole, Nick Kakemo, Sam Alexo, guys that have logged some good miles for us here. But in my version of our defense, they're freshmen, so I think for us, watching those guys grow and our D-Midi group, Carter Rice, Nate Levine, some guys that as the year has gone on, my goal here is to have us play our best lacrosse at the end of the year. And I think we're coming off our best game. Now we have to build off of that a little bit.
All right, you said your defense. Let's go there. This is our first chance to get you on this show since you came to Syracuse from Manhattan. What drew you to this program, and what's it been like? Being here this last year or so.
Yeah, it's been a dream come true. When you spend 8 years in one place, I was at Manhattan for 8 years, 7 as an assistant. And then last year as the head coach. So, it was going to take a really unique opportunity for me to leave there. I was pretty attached to the players and the people in the program there. And when I agreed to take the job here, one thing I told my guys at Manhattan was, when I got into this profession, it was for this opportunity, to coach at the highest level with the best players against the best coaches. So that was a big draw to Syracuse. I will say that a big reason I'm here is Coach Gate and the staff. I think maybe under a different set of circumstances, I don't know if I would have accepted the position or left being a head coach, but the opportunity to work with a legend like Coach Gate, and the coaches on staff, Coach March and Coach Aquaviva, are 2 guys that I've had longstanding relationships with. So as far as, the question I get all the time from my buddies is like, leaving a head coaching position, what was it like to go back to being an assistant? To me, it's been awesome. I couldn't ask for a better transition. Coach gives us so much latitude to lead our groups. I get to be, in a way, the head coach of the defense. So the change hasn't been too crazy for me, and I get to be a culture setter in certain ways too. So, everything I hoped this would be, it's been that times 1,000, and including the challenges. It's been coaching at the highest level, like I said, against the best players, the best coaches in the country, heavyweight battles every time we go out there. So I know tonight won't be any different. And I say to our guys all the time, this is why we're here. You don't come to Syracuse to coach against the mid-major schools. You come to coach in the big games against the ACCs, the Big Tens, the Power Five schools. So it's just a cool opportunity, and one that I'm so grateful to have.
I know you weren't here last year, but it does seem like there's a different mojo around this team. I don't, I can't put my finger on it, but just there is just a different excitement, around this particular group. They say sometimes teams need to learn how to win. Do you look back at, for instance, the loss to Maryland in overtime, the loss to Army in overtime? You never like to lose games, but do you think that ultimately those losses, Coach, will benefit you guys moving forward? And, did we see some of those benefits in the Hopkins game, for instance?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I've been a part of several turnarounds in my coaching career, and I think exactly what you just said. You have to learn how to win, and sometimes the best teacher is losing a game. And that's something I think with our group, people forget. Everyone wants to crown us as we're back. We're still an extremely young team. If you look at all of our positions across the board, a lot of guys that are freshmen, sophomores, even our grad guys, it's their first year playing at Syracuse or playing in the ACC. So, I think for us, we're learning how to put ourselves in a position not only to win the game, but then have a little more composure, a little more poise. So I think exactly what you said against Army and Maryland, those were games that we had leads in the fourth quarter, and maybe we just needed to learn how to win. And then I think we approached that Hopkins game a little bit differently. We had a lot more composure. We had a more, I would say, alignment across the board, across the whole program between our offense, our defense, our faceoffs, our goaltending, everything. That was something that we've made a major point of emphasis in practice the last few weeks. It's, win the close game scenarios, talking about situational lacrosse. When is a good time to take a risk? When is it time to be more conservative? And I think that definitely benefited us. So I think that's an astute observation on your part.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Today's March 20th, and it's the second to last home game somehow. A very home-heavy schedule to start the year. What do you make of it, and was it good for this group? You talk about how young you guys are. Was it good to have so many home games to start the year? Do you feel better prepared to, for the rigors of the road, after this game tonight?
Yeah, we had the most unique schedule I've ever been part of as far as playing so many home games. I think the benefit of having a dome is people would rather play inside in February since college lacrosse has become a winter sport. So I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to have large chunks of home games to start the year. It was unique. I think it was the best thing for us? I'm not sure. I think what really helped us was last week we got to go down to Charlotte, play Hopkins in Charlotte, and then we had a spring break trip where we got to spend a lot of time together down south. And I think it went a long way to spend that time together, get out of the dome. I think that has probably propelled us and set us up for this sort of stretch of road games that are coming up. Obviously, like you said, it's kind of funny. It's the second to last home game of the year. A lot of people were asking why we did senior day so early. It's because we only have one more home game after this, and we're doing a Paul Gate ceremony for that. So we wanted to split the ceremonies up. So, it is definitely unique. But I do think that this past week, we talked about it being arguably the most impactful stretch of the season, and to go 2-0 with 2 top 20 wins and one obviously over the number 2 team in the country. I think those are what we can point to really fall back on as we go into the road in the next few games after tonight.
And of course, if you keep playing like this, you'll have a home game in the NCAA tournament. But it is remarkable that after tonight, only one home game left in the regular season. All right, Coach. Last question for you: as you look at tonight, let's circle back to Syracuse Duke. What do you think this game ultimately comes down to? What is it? How does it get decided?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think ultimately in these games, you got to look up the middle. You look at the face-off play. You look at the goalie play. If you can win the possession battle. That's something we've talked about a lot. And you talked about the difference between this year and last year. I think you got to look at I know defensively the numbers are improved. I think the big area is the face-off improvement too. It's allowed us to dictate a little more of the pace. I think in the previous year, we were chasing games a little bit just from a tempo and pace standpoint. And I think the face-off area is one where they obviously have a very accomplished face-off guy, and we have two guys that we feel really good about. So that'll be definitely an area to watch. And then I think the goalie battle, at the end of the game, whoever has the possession battle and whoever's making more saves will probably come out victorious. I think when you play these games, there's going to be a ton, as much as I hate it as the D coordinator, there's going to be a lot of goals scored. But that's something we talk about a lot. Doesn't matter if it's 19-18 or 1-0, you just got to be up by 1 at the end and get the last stop. So, I think if you're a lacrosse fan or somebody that gets excited for lacrosse, this should be maybe the game of the year to this point as far as talent and the compilation of great players on one field. And I'm biased, the best venue in the sport. So I think it's going to be a really, really awesome game to be part of. And I'm just really excited to be part of it.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to it. Should be a great one. 7 o'clock face-off tonight inside the Dome between Syracuse and Duke. Coach, thanks so much for the time. Really enjoyed this. Hopefully we can talk again soon.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
All right, John Odierna, defensive coordinator for the SU men's lacrosse team. And again, you can listen to tonight's game over on our sister station, TK99, beginning at 7. With that, we'll take a timeout. We'll get to our SOS house call on the other side. Back after this on ESPN Radio.